Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
It's like a rainy night and
Right.
candlelight.
Good morning. Good morning. How's
Morning,
everybody
Karen.
doing this morning? We're at the table this morning. We always look forward to these Friday mornings, bright and early. I got my favorite people with me today. I got Dr. Kevin Izzard, my favorite doctor,
Good
and my
morning,
and
Miss
my
Dotson.
good morning. Good morning. And then we also have with us Deb Neville's with us from Cancer Prevention. Good morning, Miss Deborah. How are you this morning?
Good morning. You know what? No telling who you let through the door and sit at your table. Y'all just left the door open. Here I am.
Hey, and I appreciate it.
Greg
Thanks for
doing
joining us
it
at
right.
the table today. It's always a great pleasure when we're here at the table this morning, and we're going to have some great conversation. Am I correct on that, Dr. Izzard?
I hope so. We bring the conversation, right?
We bring the conversation, and today we're going to talk about something that is true to all of us, and that is our heart, as far as making sure that we take good care of it, and also healthy eating. And there's going to be we're going to have some guests on the second half of the show today that's going to be talking to us about some special events. I know, Deb, you always working with these women as well on multiple different projects.
Mhm.
Dr. Izzard brought it to our attention that there's a special event coming up this Saturday. And so we are just glad and delighted to bring it to the community. But we want to kind of prep before we start bringing them in. And Dr. Izzard, you're going to talk with us about a healthy heart. And I had my physical about 2 weeks ago. My doctor said, "Okay, you're gonna have to work on the cholesterol." And so I started doing some checking on that, Dr. Izzard, because everybody seemed like they got a cholesterol problem issue. What's that all about?
Okay, I'm gonna feed the cynics a little bit on this. A lot of that's driven by the pharmaceutical companies. So whatever. Usually, if you start seeing commercials about something, there's usually a new product out. So there was a while you were seeing a lot of commercials about nail fungus. Well, that's because there's a medication that could treat toenails, and the insurance wasn't covered, so they wanted to drive the patients to ask their doctors for it. There was a while you were hearing a lot of commercials about erectile dysfunction. There was a problem you were hearing commercials about peripheral vascular disease. So depending on what's going on, you'll see commercials. But heart disease is always up there because heart disease is the number one cause of death for Americans, and that's a fact. And so you're gonna always hear stuff about things that will lower your risk for heart disease. And the big ones, the big three, are gonna be high blood pressure, and a lot of us have that. Also high cholesterol, like you mentioned, and the third one is smoking. Those three things really increase your risk for heart disease. And so there's this thing that the CDC is trying to get out called ABCs. ABC, that's an S too. Okay, and so they want you to start thinking about aspirin to lower your risk. So that's the A. And the my mind just went blank here. B was B is blood pressure. C is cholesterol, and then S is smoking. So they want people, to keep that in mind and lowering your risk. Um, There's a pretty cool thing. You can go to the American Heart Association and there's other places too, where there's a calculator. And if you haven't had this done, you should really go through this with your doctor at some point. There's a calculator. You can plug in your numbers. So plug in your race, your age, your gender, your cholesterol values, your blood pressure values, whether you smoke, whether you're on blood pressure medication, and whether you have diabetes, it'll calculate your risk of having a heart attack in the next 10 years based on those factors. And that stuff, again, talking about research, that's stuff that came from research over the years. There's this town in Massachusetts called Framingham. And Framingham was kind of the start of all this. So I think it was back in the 50s. They started studying this town, the citizens of this town, Framingham, and they wanted to come up with things. Okay, we know heart disease is the one cause of death in people. Well, what is it that about heart disease? Where's it coming from? So the people in this town, most of them were enrolled in these different studies, and they studied to find, okay, who in this town had a heart attack? Okay, what did they have in common? And so that's how they found things out about like cholesterol. And at first it was just cholesterol. Then as they dug further down with more studies and more tests, they started figuring out that it wasn't just total cholesterol. You could narrow it down to LDL cholesterol, which is low density lipoprotein, which is
what does that mean, Dr. Izard? I always hear that, like, you need to lower this. You got the good cholesterol, you got the bad
You got the good
cholesterol.
cholesterol in the bad
Explain
cholesterol.
that to us.
Yeah. So when you eat something, let's say you had bacon and eggs for breakfast this morning. Okay, so there's a fair amount of fat in that bacon. So your body is going to use that fat, but it can't just absorb it through your stomach and put it into your bloodstream because oil and water don't mix, and your blood is mostly water, right? So it has to attach these proteins to it to make it soluble, so it can actually go into your system and go to your liver, where it's going to get converted into things like cell membranes and hormones and cholesterol and things like that. So the only way for it to get into your bloodstream is for it to be soluble. So they have these low density lipoproteins. So the lipo means as fat. Okay, lipo is the Greek phrase for fats, and then proteins. Again, like I said, these proteins that attach to it, so they're called lipoproteins. And we know that the ones that are kind of small, the low density ones, they kind of stick to your walls. Those are the ones that cause problems. Okay, and then you got these high density lipoproteins, the HDLs. Okay, those are the ones that are kind of good because they move the cholesterol around.
Okay.
And so if you have a high HDL, so you can think about like this, you think about your LDL as your lousy cholesterol, and you can think about your HDL as your healthy cholesterol. Okay.
Say that again, Dr. Izard. We want to make sure we get that.
Yeah. So your LDL, we call it bad, but it's not. Nothing's really bad because it all serves a purpose. But you can think about your LDL as your bad cholesterol, your lousy cholesterol, and you can think about your HDL, your good cholesterol, okay, your healthy cholesterol. Okay. And so usually when we break your total down, we'll break it down into three things: the HDL, the LDL, and then the triglycerides. Now the triglycerides actually are not technically are cholesterol because they're kind of a precursor to cholesterol. I said that fat that you eat is got to get to your liver, and so it's in a form of triglycerides. So the triglycerides meaning double glycerides, another name for fat, and so they're in these groups of three. That's why they call them triglycerides. But the triglycerides are the ones that are most affected by what you just ate. Okay, until it gets converted into something else. So that's the reason why you have to fast for that test. If you're doing your cholesterol testing, you will have your fast, and that's because we want your triglycerides to be normal. The LDL and HDL are not going to change a whole lot by whether you fast or not, but definitely the triglycerides will. And so that's why you fast for testing in most cases.
Dr. Izard, also not only when I was reading about what we eat, it also talks about like drinking water. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I always hear a lot of people don't drink much water a day, and so that's always been somewhat of a challenge as far as how much water people are drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain why that's so important?
um, again, we can bust some myths today. So that's another one that, again, it's always a good idea to drink more water, especially if you're replacing other things like sodas and even juices. That water can be better for you. But this thing about drinking 8 ounces or 8 glasses of water a day is
Mhm.
not based on science. Okay, there was it's mostly expert opinion. So we know that 2/3 of your body is water, and so you got a couple of liters of water in your body, and you probably need to replace that every day. So that's why they came up with that 8 glasses of water. But in reality, there's not a whole lot of science that backs that up. That even that it has to be water. It's really fluids. So you can anything that you eat, if it's got water in it, your body's going to be really good about trying to get that water out of it. And so the food you eat, the other things you drink, the juices, it's going to take the water out of that, because your body's going to need it. So yeah, so it is. You are encouraged to drink a lot of water, stay well hydrated, and you're well hydrated because for one, you'll be peeing because I said if your body doesn't have enough water, it's going to try to conserve that water by making your urine more concentrated. Okay, because it's taking more of that fluid back, and so your urine when you pee should be pretty clear. Okay, if it's dark, yellow or orangish, that means it's probably concentrated, and that means that you probably aren't getting enough water. Another thing you might notice if you're not getting enough water is that you might get muscle cramps. A lot of people get leg cramps, and so Charlie horses. If you're getting those, usually the first place to start is make sure you're getting enough water, especially in the summertime. People will get those. Um, Other thing you might notice is that if you're really bad, like let's say you're sick and you have diarrhea, or even if you're fasting, you might notice that your mouth might get kind of dry and sticky because you don't have enough water in your system to go to your saliva. So you might notice that also, especially if you're sick. If you got a fever, you actually lose a lot of water by sweating.
Mm.
So if you're exercising, you're losing a lot of water that way. But if you got a fever and you're sick, you lose you evaporate a lot of water in that way. And that's the reason why you have a fever, because a fever, when you sweat, as that water evaporates off of you, it lowers your body temperature. So that whole thing about starve a cold, feed a fever. Yeah, there is something to having a fever. Your body does it for a reason. So you don't necessarily want to knock it out, but you do need more fluid, and especially if you congest it too. If you have like a cold, head cold, if you don't have enough fluid, you can't make mucus. Your mucus gets real thick, and it's hard to cough it up or hard to get it up. So all those are good reasons to drink more water.
And then the other thing, I have a question for you, Dr. Izzard, and I'm kind of stuck on this water thing a little bit because they talk about like electrolytes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you see that in water and stuff like that. What
Mm-hmm.
does that do for your
Yeah.
body?
So when you sweat, and you probably have noticed this, when you sweat, if you ever taste your sweat, it's really salty.
Mhm.
Because you're losing sodium, you're losing potassium, you're losing chloride. So you're losing all those things. Basically, sodium and chloride are salt. So you're losing those electrolytes, and so you do need to replace them. So in most cases, unless you're doing a whole lot of sweating, just drinking regular water is fine. Okay,
Okay,
but
got it.
if you have, like, say you got a diarrhea illness where you're losing a lot of watery diarrhea, well, a lot in that diarrhea there's a lot of electrolytes, and so you can lose electrolytes that way. And talking about the muscle cramps again, that's one of the reasons you get the muscle cramps is because you need those, especially potassium. You need those for muscles, and so if you don't have enough of them, your levels are low, you're going to start getting muscle cramps.
I just want the community to know that we're going to be talking, and we are talking about like issues related to heart disease and our heart. And around 60% of Black American adults have heart disease. So
Mm.
that's over 50% of us are dealing with that in some capacity. And so when we're talking about our heart, that is one of the key organs that supplies every other organ.
Yes.
And so, Dr. Izzard, can you talk a little bit more about when the heart isn't functioning right, the other organs don't as well?
Yeah, yeah. So there's probably three things you talk about your heart about. One would be heart attacks. The others would be rhythm issues, like AFib or you got palpitations or some other rhythm issue. And the last one would be like heart failure. So as far as we'll start with the first one. So heart attacks, as you mentioned before, heart attacks are the number one cause of death. We call it cardiovascular disease. Okay, so when your heart is damaged because of, and usually it starts off with blocked arteries. So your heart's a pump. It's pumping blood through your body. And why do you need to pump blood through your body? Because you got to get blood to your lungs to pick up oxygen, because all the cells in your body need that oxygen. And when it gets there, it's actually carried on your blood cells in the form of hemoglobin. So attached to the hemoglobin, it goes to your cells, it dumps off the oxygen, goes back to the lungs, pick up more oxygen. Okay. If you can't get blood to your lungs to pick up oxygen, you're gonna die. And so sometimes people can get things like pulmonary embolism. Okay, that's a
That's a
blood
big
clot in
word.
the lungs. Yeah, it's a big word, but or PEs you might hear abbreviated. So if someone has a blood clot in their leg, for instance, and it travels up to their heart and gets pushed out to the lungs, it blocks the flow of oxygen and they die. They die suddenly. They die right away because if you ain't getting oxygen, again, you're gonna die. So oxygen is important. So your heart, even though it's pushing through all the blood in your body in a fairly vigorous manner, it only uses a little bit of that blood for itself. Okay, so you have coming off of your heart, you have this big artery called the aorta, and it goes down the middle of your chest, down and it again branches off to all the other arteries. But they have these little things called coronary arteries that come off that aorta just as it leaves the heart. Okay, and it supplies the heart. So those coronary arteries can get blocked. If they get blocked, then the heart's not getting enough oxygen and the heart muscle dies. So just like if you had a blockage in your leg and you start getting leg cramps, if your heart's not getting enough oxygen, it's going to cramp up too. And that's called angina, when you have chest pain from inadequate circulation to your heart. And so in the classic case, when someone has heart disease, what they'll do is they'll start noticing when they're exercising that they start to get chest pain. Okay. So, because what happens is the time where your heart needs more oxygen is when you're exercising, because it's beating faster and it's working harder. And so you need more oxygen. But if it's blocked, it can't get enough oxygen. And that's when it starts to cramp up and you get that chest pain. Now,
What kind of chest pain is that normally, Dr. Izzard? How does that, kind of explain or describe that a little bit?
So the chest pain is usually the term of the form of you might actually have pain, where you just kind of a sharp pain in the middle of your chest, more towards the left side, but usually in the middle of your chest. Now, the thing about the heart is that the nerves that supply your heart are what they call visceral nerves. So you got two kinds of nerves. You got somatic nerves, you got visceral nerves. So if I took a needle and I stuck it in your arm, you can close your eyes. You can tell me exactly where that needle went in, because you have these nerves that'll tell you where exactly that is, and your brain's able to figure it out. You have these other nerves, these visceral nerves, that supply your organs. So they supply your intestines, your organs like your liver and your gallbladder and all these things. Usually when those nerves are irritated, then you feel nausea. Like if I took a needle and stuck it in your intestine, you wouldn't feel a sharp pain. You couldn't tell me where I stuck that needle, but you would feel nauseated. Okay. Like for instance, women, when they have the menstrual period, those organs, your ovaries, those are visceral. So that's why you get cramping. You don't usually get a sharp pain. It's usually a crampy pain. So when people are having chest pain, you ask them where the pain is, and they'll make a fist like around their, like it's like I can hear, so they can't really put their finger on it. It's more of a vague kind of as this area is where I feel it, but you can't really pinpoint it. Usually if you can pinpoint it, that usually means it's either the ribs or the muscles around the ribs that are the source of the pain. So
Oh, so that's
so
a good way of knowing, like if it's a heart attack or if it's some other cramps with,
right,
some
right,
other
yeah. So
muscle.
usually, if you can reproduce it by moving your arm, it's usually not your heart. Or if you can put your finger on it, and not saying it's 100%, but it's usually if you can put your finger on it, it's probably not your heart. It's probably something around the heart. But also with that, with angina, you might have again nausea. So some people, I had one guy who was having a heart attack, and the only symptom he had was he was throwing up. And
Wow.
yeah, and that that was it. So someone in the ER got his cardiac enzymes and found out he was having a heart attack, but wasn't having any chest pain. The other thing that people can have is pressure. So it might feel like people describe it as like something sitting on their chest or like a band going around their chest. So you might have that pressure. That might be one of the signs of angina. Also, you might have um, pain that kind of shoots up to your jaw, and especially on the left side. Okay, so pain radiating up to your jaw or neck, can be an indication that you're having angina. And like I said, typically it happens when you're exercising. So again, this is classic. So not everybody has these symptoms, and in fact, women do not they tend to be more likely to not have these classic symptoms, and so oftentimes they're overlooked because they'll come in and they're feeling, "Oh, I'm feeling nauseated," and no one thinks about checking them for heart disease, especially if you're a young woman. So women under 50 are more likely to die of a heart attack than men.
Wow. I was
Because
wondering why that was.
yeah,
Okay.
because we don't think about women having heart disease. Women don't think about themselves as having heart disease. So, if they're having angina, sometimes they'll just kind of blow it off. "Oh, I'm just under the weather," and so they don't get checked out. When in actuality they're having a heart attack. Whereas a man, if he's having something, especially if it's in his chest, they're gonna think, "Oh, I must have a heart attack. I gotta go to the hospital." Or the wife makes him go to the hospital, but she didn't think about it for herself.
Yeah, well,
Dr. Iser, when we're talking about the heart, I was always wondering about that too. So I was just talking to my doctor and I said, and I read about, getting, like he said, well, if you're concerned or whatever, get like a CT scan. And a lot of times insurances don't pay for it. And I think it's like
Right.
$100 or something like that
Hmm.
to get. And can you explain why that is so important for people to consider and is not so costly?
Yeah. So probably what we was referring to was a heart scan, okay,
Yeah.
or a calcium score. That's another thing you might hear it referred to. So you know what I'll do? I see we're coming up on a break.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
discuss that on the other side of the break about the heart scans and
And
calcium score.
and Dr. Izzard, I definitely want people to hear about that because I think this is something that's really needed and need to know. But we're going to take a break. And if you're interested in calling and sitting at the table with us today, I have Dr. Kevin Izzard with me and also Deb Nevels. And Deb, you've been pretty quiet over there, so we're going to have to get you going. Okay, girl?
You taking
taking
notes, right?
notes.
I'm taking notes. Okay. But as far as if our listeners want to join us, feel free to give us a call at 414-444-5250 or 414-444-5253. We will see you back on the other side. Please join us at the table this morning.
Good morning, Milwaukee.
Good morning. Good morning. We're at the table this
I
morning.
know, right? I said, where am I today? Right.
We're at the table, Dr. Izzy.
That's right. And you know what? Pull up a chair. Join the yeah. Sit with us at the table here. Get your coffee, get your juice, whatever you got, and we're going to talk about health.
We're going to talk
Not
about
table,
health.
you're gonna meet.
Yes. And we're talking about the heart, which is so important. And, Deb, I was just thinking about heart. I don't hear a lot about heart cancer. Um, you
Yeah, and
know,
I think what's really critical in everything that Dr. Izzet was saying, if your heart is not healthy and taking the precautions, everything that he's talked about this morning increases your chances of having a better outcome if you are diagnosed with cancer. One of the things that's done if you're diagnosed with cancer is that they do test your heart to see how healthy your heart is. So the heart scans that Dr. Is going to talk about, things like that that's done to make sure that you can undergo chemo or radiation, all of that plays a role. And if you take the precautions like Dr. Izzard, the ABCs, um, watching your blood pressure, your cholesterol, if you look at if you try to reduce your weight, which we were talking about during the break,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things reduce your risk for cancer. And this is what we try to do with our program, is talk about cancer prevention. But if you um, do any of the things to prevent any of the other chronic illnesses that plague our community, you will also reduce your risk for cancer. And your heart health is extremely, extremely important. I think when you talk about cancer spreading, that it can spread to other organs. Um, that's when it reaches stage 4. That's one thing that I think that you're alluding to. But I think one thing that's really, really critical is knowing that if you work to reduce your cholesterol, if you work to make sure that your heart is healthy, if you change, which our guests later on are going to talk about, if you make sure that you're eating healthy, as our friend who's going to join us will talk about eating the rainbow, eating everything, all the fruits and vegetables and all the different colors, making sure that you get the rainbow throughout the day, you will be reducing your risk for cancer. And there's things that you can do to help reduce that risk. And one of those things is making sure that your heart is healthy. And if you're working towards a healthy heart, you're working towards cancer risk reduction. And I think the heart scans that Dr. is
Mm-hmm.
talking about is one of those things that's done to make sure that your heart is healthy and that you can um, go through cancer treatment without undue risks.
Right. So yeah, we started talking about heart scans, and you asked about that. So
yes.
the theory is this. So let's go back to again talking about cholesterol plaques. So what happens is the cholesterol, especially this LDL cholesterol, gets into the walls of your arteries. Okay, and in this case, we're talking about the coronary arteries, the ones around your heart. But it gets in other places too. You can have bad circulation in your legs. You can have bad circulation in your head. So that
Mm,
your risk for stroke if it's in your head, or people get amputations, or they call peripheral vascular disease if it's down lower in the lower part of your body. But in this case, it's talking about your heart. So you get this cholesterol that builds up, and unlike your drain, like in the house, you get these slow. You get a bunch of junk that kind of builds up in your pipes, and then you get that low flow. Usually, heart attacks don't work that way. You can't. I mean, that does happen to some degree, but usually what happens is you get these plaques that kind of build up on the wall of the arteries, and they constrict the size of it. So it's harder to get blood going through. And that's that your heart needs more oxygen when it's working hard, and you can't get it there, and so the people get chest pain. If it complete now, the problem is that if it completely blocks, then that's when you're going to have a major heart attack. So why would that happen? So if you look at these plaques, on the outside of the plaque is a wall. They call it, there's a wall to the plaque. So it gets what's called endothelium. So some of the lining of your artery kind of covers over that plaque. So it's actually inside the wall at that point, because the lining of your arteries, of the inside of your arteries, is covering it. But inside that plaque is cholesterol. It's a liquid, like I said. And going back to one of my original statements, oil and water don't mix. Okay, so if for some reason that cholesterol in that plaque gets into your bloodstream, it immediately causes a reaction. It causes a blood clot. Okay. And that's why people who have these sudden heart attacks, they're
Mhm.
fine. All of a sudden they cluster their heart and they go down. That's because that cholesterol has caused a blood clot to form in that artery, and immediately that artery gets no blood going through, and the heart dies. Okay. So within minutes, that heart muscle is dead, and that person essentially dies unless they get something to open that up. And that's when people go to the cath lab. So the cath lab is a place where they will stick, basically they put a tube that goes up to your heart. So they'll either go into your groin or they can go through the arm now, but it goes up to your heart, and they can actually find, they'll inject dye through that tube, to that catheter tube, and they can actually see under special X-ray. They can see the dye, and they can see where the dye stops going to the arteries. So they can see all the arteries are outlined because the dye is going through the arteries, but you see a place where there's no dye going through, and that's because it's blocked. And so they can actually, through that tube, they can actually put a balloon, a little small balloon, and they try to go. If they can get through it, they'll get through it. They'll inflate the balloon. It'll stretch the artery open and open up that plaque, and then they could put a stent in there. So basically, a wire, a wire cage like thing that kind of goes in there. It opens up, and it can save someone's life, but you got to get it done like right away, because once that blood starts flowing, then they say time is heart, time is muscle, so you got to get. So if you sit around for all day or a couple of days because you're not sure if it's something, and then you have a major heart attack, it can mean the difference between surviving it or not surviving it, or having severe damage and having heart failure, or being relatively okay. So yeah, you got to get checked out if you're having chest pain. So we talked about the symptoms of, and I'm gonna come back to. I didn't forgotten about the heart scan.
Okay. Okay. Thank
If
you.
you're having chest pain, if you're having especially pain that radiates to your jaw or sometimes your back, um, if you got nausea or vomiting, like we talked about, you can get short of breath. You can get that feeling like something's sitting on your chest. You can get sweating. And Jermaine and I were just talking about it too. You might feel sweaty, like all of a sudden you start sweating. Um, Women, like I said, they don't always have those symptoms, especially the chest pain. Women can sometimes, though, they can get pain in their lower abdomen, which can, or upper abdomen, which can indicate that they're having angina, or fainting. There's another thing you don't see too much in men, but just women will have fainting, they'll have indigestion, and they might have extreme fatigue. And the fatigue usually comes from because you can't really get enough oxygen going to your heart, so you kind of poop out real easily. But any of those things you need to get checked out. Well, anyway, so kind of going back to bringing it back around to the heart scan. So you get these plaques, and there's cholesterol inside. And in addition to the cholesterol that's in there, there's calcium in there. So the heart scan, what they do is they do the special X-ray, the special CT, where they're looking for they're basically scanning for calcium. Okay, and so the theory is that if you got calcium that's in your heart, it's probably from a plaque, a cholesterol plaque. So you can look at that, and you can say, oh, this person has no cholesterol, and so they probably don't have any significant coronary artery disease because they have no cholesterol, and the plaques probably have cholesterol in them. Okay. The problem with the heart scan is that it's relatively new, and there's not a whole lot of evidence yet that backs it up. So there's an organization called the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, and they're the kind of the agency, the U.S. agency that kind of makes recommendations about screening tests. So things like pap smears and mammograms and colonoscopies and prostate cancer screening and all that. So they usually look at these things, and every year they'll give an opinion about whether this is something that's that's medically feasible, that the costs of it and the benefits of it, kind of align. So they'll say, okay, it's we know that, for instance, that colon cancer is number 3 cause of death. Um, Colonoscopies are expensive, but when you consider the the cost of it versus how many lives you're going to save and how much you're going to save the system by people not having cancer and
Mhm.
therapy and all that stuff, that is worth it to pay for everybody to have a colonoscopy. And usually, once they make that recommendation, the insurance companies kind of line up and say, okay, we have to cover this. And then the Affordable Care Act, the Obamacare, when they passed all that, they mandated that insurance companies cover these screening tests. So they have to cover your colonoscopy, they have to cover your mammogram, they have to cover your Pap smear. They found some things like they used to do chest X-rays to check for people who were smokers to see if they had lung cancer. Well, what they found was that when they did the research, they found that there was, by the time you found a tumor, a lung tumor from a chest X-ray, it didn't change the outcome because by that time it's pretty far advanced. What they did find though later on, as they did more testing, was that there's if you do a CAT scan, what they call a low density CAT scan, um, for someone who is at high risk for smoking, that there actually is evidence that you could catch a tumor early enough that you can make a difference. So now they made that recommendation. So if you're a smoker, you're over 55, and you have a 20-pack year of history, meaning that when I'm smoking a pack a day for a year, and you smoked in the last 15 years, then a low density CAT scan actually would help. But anyway, so as far as the heart scan, um, there is not enough evidence yet for them to recommend that people routinely get these heart scans. So
So that's why it's not covered through your insurance,
covered,
and
right?
you have to pay for it, but
Yeah,
it's only like $100 or something like that, I think.
you
I'm
know
not
what?
saying
You can
only,
get it,
but, you know.
right, right. You can get it for as cheap as $50. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So
Where is
Aurora
that
is
at, Dr.
$50.
Izzard, for people that wanna
Aurora,
know?
Aurora's $50, and I think I just saw recently that Pro Health Care will also do it for $50. So now the thing is, you're paying out of pocket for it. Okay, so don't expect your insurance to pay for it. But you got to pay yourself. But for some, now again, the question is, who's going to most benefit from this? So in most cases, we kind of go by your risk factors. So someone who's having chest pain, it comes to your office that I'm having this chest pain when I exercise, and it goes away when I stop. I'm probably not gonna send up for a heart scan because they're beyond a heart scan. They need to have a stress test. Okay,
Hmm.
and a stress test is basically what a stress test is. This: you're stressing out your heart. You're going to increase the demand for oxygen by your heart by either having you exercise, so you get up on a treadmill or a stationary bike. You get your heart rate up, and presumably, if you're not getting enough blood to that heart muscle, it's going to cause some changes on your EKG. So basically, what they're doing an EKG while you're exercising. Okay, and they're looking now. Most people, as you exercise, your heart rate will go up, then it'll come down, and so you should be able to see that and their EKG should be looking normal. If someone's got a blockage, then their heart rate might not go up, um, and and they will have some EKG changes, meaning that the heart's not getting enough oxygen, and so the heart is starting to have this weird look on it in the EKG. So that's what a stress test is. So a stress test is good for people that have exercise induced angina. So you can have them exercise, you'll see it. Some people have angina at rest, so they might not be doing anything and have it. So you can do other tests, like you can inject dye into the heart. We talked about for the calf. Well, this is about the calf. The calf is kind of the gold standard. So you put that wire, that tube up into your heart. You inject dye. You can see the arteries, and that's the gold standard because you can see where the blockage is. Okay, but the thing about it, you talking about putting a tube into your heart, there's a certain amount of risk that goes along with that. So you don't want to just send someone to cath lab unless you got good reason, because the risk of it the benefit has to outweigh the risk. Okay, so someone who you're not sure about, you're not going to send them to cath lab. So someone says, I feel kind of really tired all the time. Especially when I exercise, and they can't find anything wrong, and sometimes they might have palpitations, and so you're probably not going to send them for cath, to a cath lab. You'll do another test you can do, what they call nuclear studies, nuclear medicine. Well, they'll inject a dye. Not say it's dye, but it's a radio contrast into your arteries, and you get this special X-ray of your heart. And actually, what you're seeing is the blood perfusing through the heart. So it should perfuse throughout the whole heart if you get enough blood going to every place. Okay, but if you got a blockage, you might see an area that there's no dye going to. That's because there's no blood going there, or the blood flow is reduced. And so you can do that as another way. So you're not putting this tube into their heart, but you can that's another test you can do to try to see if they have blockage. And if they do, if that's positive, so that they got an area that looks like there's not enough blood going to it, then you might do a catheterization, because then you can, one, you can further elucidate it, look at it again, and two, if there is a blockage, you can actually fix it at that time. You can put a stent in. So back
Wow,
to
that's
the
a
heart
lot
scan.
going on, Dr. Izzard.
Yeah, no, there's a whole lot. We just scratched.
So when that blockage, because I'm curious about that, when they
Mhm.
see the blockage, so that means that artery is damaged, right?
Right. A lot of it depends on which artery it is too, because you got like these three big arteries that kind of, one goes around the heart, the circumflex artery, and then you got the descending artery, the LAD, the left descending artery, um, which is the called the widowmaker. That's the one that's it's like if you block. You're going down the street and you block Burleigh. Well, you can kind of get around if you're trying to get to the west side of town.
Mhm.
Like Capitol Drive, well, that's a major one, and so it's like blocking a major artery if you block that LAD, because that's the one that goes to the left side of your heart. That left side of your heart does all the work. That's so you got four chambers in your heart. The left ventricle is the one that's pushing all the blood throughout your body. And so if that one gets damaged, okay, if that muscle gets damaged, that's catastrophic. That'll kill you.
Oh, wow.
Some
You
parts
know,
of your heart, if it doesn't work as well, yeah, you'll get by. You have heart failure. Heart failure meaning, we talked about that earlier too. Heart failure is really when you're not putting enough blood, for either for your body or to keep the circulation going. And so people, when they have heart failure, the blood will back up because the heart's not pushing hard enough. So you might notice you start getting swelling in your legs, or backs up into your lungs. And so they might have problems with breathing because they get fluid that accumulates in their lungs. Um, right.
Dr. Izzard, I'm looking online here and I see that someone has put in here that they read that we have to be careful taking calcium supplements because it can leave calcium in the blood and arteries. And I've heard about that too. So can you explain that?
That I have not heard that it's. I mean, there's a problem with taking too much calcium, and you just not because of the effect, because the calcium is, yeah, it gets into the plaque, but it's not causing that plaque. So the problem with that would be too much calcium is it can cause kidney stones. That's one of the things you'll see.
So you really need to be careful with calcium supplements because your body has a tendency to keep that. And we get calcium through a lot of things we
Yeah,
eat.
yeah. So, um, boy, it's a conversation you should have with your doctor. Like, for instance, if you're a young woman, especially a young woman who's breastfeeding, you need extra calcium. And then
Okay.
women, there's a certain period of time in your life, and usually when you're young, where you're building up your bones. Okay. And then by the time you get to menopause, you're not building up your bones anymore. So that calcium is is stored in your bones. So you increase your risk for osteoporosis if you don't get enough calcium when you're younger. So women probably do need more calcium. They might need calcium supplements. And actually, a good way to get calcium is, people don't realize Tums are calcium carbonate. So you take a Tums a day, along with the vitamin D. That's a good way to get calcium to build up your bones. And unless you're taking a whole lot of calcium, you're probably not going to have enough that you're going to cause kidney stones or any other problems, electrolyte imbalance. But it can happen. It can happen. Like, there's a condition where you'll see. I've seen a couple times in my career where someone was taking an excess amount of Tums because they had a stomach ulcer, and they're
Mm,
taking all these Tums and Tums. Again, Tums is calcium carbonate, so you can actually get too much calcium that way.
wow. So it's better if you're having some issues like that, you should consult your doctor and not take, when you keep taking those Tums all the time
Yeah.
and you're taking a lot of them, that could be a major problem that needs to be addressed in
Yeah.
multiple different ways, probably. Is that what I'm hearing, Dr. Izzard?
You are hearing correctly, ma'am.
I just want to mention to people that, you can call in, and if you have questions for Dr. Izzard, we always take this time every, in the morning, at least up until 8 o'clock, we are able to have Dr. Izzard with us, and this medical genius that I call him, because I tell him he's a encyclopedia. And it's just like I tell you, Dr. Izzard, if I wasn't working around you, I would definitely have you as my doctor, because
You know what? You need to, if you don't have a doctor, who aired. I was talking with a patient yesterday, and she was saying, "Doctor, I come to you because they don't talk to me when I go over to," because some woman had a heart attack. Speaking of heart, in fact, she coded 3 times, and she's a young woman. She's only 54. I'm sorry, 60. She's 60. She's 59. So she coded 3 times, and it came out of nowhere. I mean, she wasn't having chest pain or anything. But she said, "Yeah, I go over to the cardiologist and they kind of run me through, and nobody explains to me what's going on." So I kind of pull up my paper and draw pictures and say, "This is what's going on. This is how your heart works, and this is why you're having heart failure now." And but find a doctor who will explain that stuff to you.
We're going to take a break.
Yeah.
I just want to remind people that feel free to call us and sit at the table with us today. You can reach us at 414-444-5253 or 414-444-5250. We're going to come back on the other side with our guests. Should be lining up pretty soon. We're going to have more conversation, and I appreciate people when you're talking in the chat. I get a chance to see what's going on, how people are feeling about what's going on with their doctor, and talking about supplements and all that. So please join us at the table, and we'll be right back.
Here's your updated forecast. We'll see a few spotty rain showers possible late today. Otherwise, increasing cloud cover with a high in the mid-40s. Winds out of the northeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. And then for tonight, a chance for some rain showers, cloudy, although near 38. By Saturday, a slight chance for rain early on. Skies will become mostly sunny, high 49 degrees. Then by Sunday, mostly sunny skies, a high around 47. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on AM 860 The Voice.
AURN News.
I'm Jamie Jackson. If you've been scoring deals on Temu or Shein, that bargain might be coming to an end. A new executive order from President Trump will soon apply steep tariffs to many low-cost goods shipped directly from China. For years, online retailers used a rule called de minimis, which allowed packages under $800 to enter the U.S. without custom duties. But starting May 2nd, that exemption disappears for Chinese goods. Shipments will now face a flat fee of $25 per item or 30% of their value, whichever is higher. And by June 1st, that rate doubles to $50 per item. The new rule applies across the board from standard shipping to international mail. The White House says it's part of a broader effort to reduce reliance on Chinese imports. For consumers, it likely means higher prices and fewer ultra-cheap finds in your next Temu or Shein order. I'm Jamie Jackson for AURN News.
Are you thinking about buying a home? Get the information you need from industry experts. Housing Resources HUD approved workshops will explain the home buying process, share credit requirements, and share how to access down payment assistance up to $10K or more. It's time to make an investment in your future. Sign up for Housing Resources Home Buyer Education Workshops at hri-wi.org. That's hri-wi.org or call 414-461-6330. That's 414-461-6330.
The Art of Essence Beauty Bar, a new entity specializing in healthy skincare and beauty application for all skin tones. Come experience the luxury of tranquility. You can get 30% off the Essence package, a full body service. We have client specials, the beauty package, a mini facial with makeup application, just $65. Men, we got you too. The Beast package, beard facial with ingrown hair removal treatment, just $65. We also offer waxing, custom custom facials, lash extensions, and eyebrows. Our products are sponsored by Dermalogica. We are located at 8742 North Deerwood Drive, Suite 2, inside Studio Salons. The Art of Essence Beauty Bar is owned and operated by T. Michelle Essence, a licensed esthetician. For more information, visit our website at theartofessence.us or call 888-418-5356. That's 888-418-5356.
I want to welcome everybody back. This is Karen Dotson from the Medical College of Wisconsin. I have along with me my favorite doctor, Dr. Kevin Izzard today, along with my other favorite co-worker, Deb Neville's with us. And, I was just looking online and some people were talking about stress and how that external things are, how that will affect our heart. And actually, we're going to have some conversation with two wonderful women here that really work hard in the community related to healthy eating and also our health. And Deb, I'm going to ask if you could introduce our guests.
Well, before we introduce these folks that have snuck in through the back door into our table, they did, Karen. There is a caller on the line.
Okay.
Holding caller, welcome to the table. It's caller, welcome to the table. Are you there?
Yes.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning. I have a question. I have diabetes and heart trouble too. But when I go to the doctor, they take this test that I have too much calcium in my body. The test be up to 10 and 11. They were saying that it comes from some kind of gland in my neck.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That's a different thing. So there's a everybody knows about the thyroid gland. At least a lot of people heard about the thyroid gland. Inside your thyroid gland is another gland called the parathyroid gland. Okay. Now the thyroid gland kind of controls your metabolism. The parathyroid gland controls your calcium. So all the calcium in your body, most of the calcium in your body is stored in your bones. So the parathyroid gland, what it does is it regulates that calcium. So when your body needs more calcium, it takes it out of the bone. When you got enough calcium, it stores it in the bone. So if your parathyroid gland is not working correctly, what happens is now it's taking too much calcium out of the bone into your circulation. Now, part of that it can cause, as I said, it can cause kidney stones is the big one that you'll see. They can cause all other kind of joint pains and from having a calcium level that's too high. They can even affect your mental status, having a calcium level that's too high. So they need to do further tests to figure out is the problem with your parathyroid gland or is it something else? But yeah, you should get that checked out. That's a thing called your parathyroid gland. It's inside your thyroid gland and it regulates your calcium level.
Oh, so it's not coming from taking too much calcium, because they told me don't take no kind of calcium, no tongs or nothing like that.
It's probably not coming from that. But as they work it up, they probably want you to limit how much. They want to make sure that, like I said, every once in a while you see someone who's taking a bunch of Tums because they have a stomach issue, and you want to rule that out as a cause of your problem. But they need to check different hormone levels to try to figure out what's going on there.
Oh, okay then. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you so much, caller. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
One thing you did mention that was interesting, and I haven't really emphasized, is that diabetes puts you at increased risk for heart disease too, because diabetes is you got to think about diabetes as a small blood vessel disease. So it affects the small blood vessels in your kidneys, so you're more prone to developing renal failure. They call it nephropathy in diabetes. You can develop retinopathy. So that's a problem with your eyes. So one of the leading causes of blindness in the U.S. is diabetes. So you should get your eyes checked out. It can affect the small blood vessels in your periphery, so in your legs. And everybody knows about a diabetic who's lost their foot or their toe or their lower leg because the circulation is bad because of the diabetes. But it can affect the small blood vessels in your heart and your brain too. So diabetics are at increased risk for heart disease and strokes. So if you do have diabetes, if you have high blood pressure, in particular, those things are put you at higher risk for having heart attacks. So really get your blood pressure controlled, get your diabetes under control. Definitely, if you're a smoker, quit smoking because smoking constricts the arteries. So if you already have arteries that are blocked and you constrict them more by putting nicotine in your system, it makes it even worse. So aside from the lung cancer risk, smoking also increases your risk for heart attacks also.
Our guests that are going to be joining us, and that are joining us, I should say, and Deb is going to introduce them, is going to really talk also about how we can be a little bit more proactive with what's going on in our lives and how we can, what kind of control can we do to make us healthier. And so, Deb, I'm going to ask if you could introduce our guest today.
Yeah, introduce these folks that snuck in through the back door. I was
Through the back door, Deb. Come on now.
Come on, guests. Come on.
I know. Wait a minute. Did she invite you all? I think that was.
Chair. Come on, get a chair. These two know they are always welcome to whatever table I'm at.
That's
If
right.
I'm at the table and they aren't there, I look around and try to make room. I'm texting, talking about where y'all at, where y'all been. Outside in the parking lot. I'm trying to look for them.
There, you out in the parking lot looking for him, Bill?
I'm outside in the parking lot looking for him, asking, do you need a ride? Do I need to come and get you?
In fact, these are friends of our program too. They've both been on before.
They've both been on. Yeah. I will tell you.
You ladies a hard time, but I am glad to see you this morning.
Yes. I first want to interview Dr. Yvonne Greer. Dr. Greer, she and I have been partners in crime for a long time. Whatever she tells me to do, I usually show up and try to do it. And when I'm trying to stay in the background, she tries to pull me up to the front. Dr. Greer has her doctorate in public health as a registered, has her doctorate and is a registered in public health and is a registered dietitian. She has 45 years, which she started when she was 2. That's my story.
In kindergarten.
45 years of experience in medical nutrition counseling. She has spearheaded programs such as Milwaukee County Organizations Promoting Prevention, led that program to us leading the community to be able to get CDC grants, partnerships with the state. It's been incredible working with her. She also has her own company, her own consulting group, Why Eat Right, where she serves as a national keynote speaker, a nutrition and a healthy living coach. I've tried to dodge and dodge her on that because whenever I'm eating my gummy bears, I just hide.
You tried your gummy bears, Deb?
We're not talking about that right now. We're not talking about so Dr. Greer, dear friend, welcome to the table. Welcome to the table. She's also won awards nationally on a national level.
Yes, that's so awesome. I mean, that says a lot right here.
Glad to see her here. And then our other guest, my friend, I was actually on the phone with her last night while I was shopping.
You guys are you chat like that, huh?
Yeah, it was bad. Erica Sinclair, she is the founder and CEO of Health Connections. This is a healthcare firm that provides direct clinical care located over on Port Washington. They have moved and expanded. As always, they are growing. Thanks to the foresight and the vision of Erica. She and her team, they are doing incredible work. The clinic's areas of focus are primary care, HIV care and treatment, prevention, and transgender health. In doing this work, she's become an advocate, a mentor, teacher, consultant, and speaker on health equity and trauma-informed care, also diversity and inclusion and healthcare access. I could go on, but these folks, we got some folks at the table. I know Dr. Izzard has to leave us, but he's leaving us in good hands.
Yes.
With these two dear friends. They didn't sneak through the back door. They always welcome through the front. Welcome to the. We actually have a caller on the line, Karen.
Okay, go right ahead.
All right, caller. Welcome to the
Yes.
tape.
Good morning. Is it still okay to ask a question?
It sure is.
Always.
Okay, thank you for your genuine service to our community. I had a C-section before, and a year later when I followed up, excuse me, with my doctor for the follow-up appointment, he asked me, how's that bladder going? And he joked about it, but I told him at the time, I'm fine. And then he gave me a pamphlet about, well, I got a colleague that's specialized in the pelvic floor department. It's a new thing going on. And here, take this. Well, 5 years later, I can't hold my bladder. And I'm wondering, is that a real department, or is that one of these things where you get the superstition of, oh, the doctors just want to take all your insurance money and money, and they're making up new things that's out now. And did he do the C-section on purpose so that I can have these bladder or pelvic floor issues? And I'm wondering, do you recommend that kind of therapy, Dr. Izzard, and your panel?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of off topic, but it's a common thing. So women, as you get older, especially if you've had kids, what happens is that baby, is taking up all that space, in your pelvis and your lower abdomen, and so after a while, especially with multiple kids, it starts to drop. So your pelvic muscles aren't as strong as they were.
So what did our ancestors do back in the day? They didn't have pelvic floor therapy and all these different specialist doctors. So that's why I'm kind of skeptical. Oh, they did.
No, they did. They had problems. They just, well, for one thing, our ancestors didn't live beyond 60 years old. So so a lot of, and you'll find out even the ones that did, they had all kinds of issues going on, especially with female problems, because a lot of them couldn't get into decent doctors. So it's a common thing.
I have a question.
A lot of our ancestors had 10, 12 kids.
Right.
So they did have problems.
But also, Dr. Izzard, I think some of our ancestors, they did a lot of hard work. So they were out there in those fields and things like that too. So they did a lot more exercise than what we're doing too.
Build back up their bodies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would recommend this new specialist that's out there now?
I would say this: if you're having problems, yes. So usually we start off with doing what they call Kegel exercises, where it's just tightening up that muscle. So it's a muscle that you use to shut off your pee. So if you stop peeing midstream, that's that muscle. So you want to work on that muscle and build it up so that you don't have problems. But some women find that if they laugh too hard or they sneeze or they jump, that they just lose their urine. And
I didn't know if it was perimenopausal or if this new pelvic floor exercise therapy, which one it is. But I will talk to my doctor. But I appreciate you all's feedback.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you. And never apologize for having questions. That's part of the reason why Karen and Dr. Izzard have created this platform for us.
Amen.
Amen.
I always say, don't say sorry. You're not a sorry person. You're not.
Yeah, because I love it when people call in because others might have that same question.
Yeah. So Karen, we have these wonderful guests here with us, Erica and Dr. Yvonne, because they have a program coming on Saturday. I don't know what you're doing, but I surely am going to be at Thrive On at 9:00 on Saturday morning. It is tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Blended.
10 to 2.
But Dr. Greer and Erica, can you all tell us a little bit about this community showcase that's going on tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. that is free to the community?
Can you say that again, Deb?
Free. Free 99. Free. It's free, and it's got they have a rich program. I can't list it all, but they can. So Dr. Greer and Erica, tell us a little bit about this community showcase.
Dr. Greer, you can go ahead.
Oh,
I'm throwing it in your corner.
When we look at the program that we have going on called the Milwaukee Heart Health Learning Collaborative, a new initiative that is going to be in our community for the next 5 years. We wanted to make sure that the community knows what's available to them. And so we decided to have a big showcase that bring all of our partners together to showcase the different things that they can access, to bring awareness to the issues of the importance of heart health and heart health practices. And so we're bringing together from the healthcare systems, like Freighter and Ascension, to community organizations like the Cage. I'll be there with my Why Eat Right business, and our Action Movement Initiative will be there. So you'll have a variety of different organizations there. I'm going to turn it over to Erica.
Thank you.
You could tell you all are really partners in doing this work. And so, I love it the way you kind of work together on that. So go ahead, Eric.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Yes, we have 32 resource tables. It was supposed to be 15. I'm just going to say that out loud.
30. Did you say 30?
Ma'am.
Somebody wasn't counting.
Ma'am.
Did you say 30? This is awesome.
It was supposed to be 15.
32.
It's 32.
32. Wow.
32. The last one added last night through a text message. I'm just saying.
This is wonderful. I mean,
we are community for real. 32 resource tables, 150 to 200 people, because we're still getting a registration. The registration is right up until you walk in the door, and you don't have to register, but we really want to know, because we are preparing food. We will have light refreshments. And anytime that we're involved, usually when Dr. Greer and I are involved, there's probably some food involved. It's kind of how we roll. So we want it, but it's going to be healthy. It's going to be healthy stuff. We're also working with, we're going to have blood pressures available. And I really am happy about the blood pressure screenings, because it's a collaborative nature of our learning collaborative. And it'll be staffed by Freighter, Ascension, Health Connections, City on a Hill. So this is the nature of what we do as far as a learning collaborative. We do work together to serve the community, and this is just a demonstration of how we do it. So we'll have the blood drive happening as well with Versity, because Versity, it actually is a tenant in the building on the first floor, and they also wanted to be a part of the event. And they signed on pretty early in the process, and they said, "Hey, let's do a blood drive?" And we're like, "Okay." So they're calling it the Milwaukee Heart Health Takeover blood drive. And I was like, okay, here we go. A little pressure. So so we actually need you all to help us out on that part of it, because we need about 20 donors to make it a successful program as far as the blood donations. So please, if you can come through, there's a link on our website for it, but also if you can just walk in. You don't have to really sign up for that either. So if you can come in and give blood, our brothers and sisters that have sickle cell and other conditions, they really, really need our help. And right now, it usually is this anyways, but right now it's really a shortage of product available. So we need to be able to take care of our community. We know that when you do blood donations, the best people to get it are other people from the same race and ethnicity. It tends to, your body will take that better. So we need to, and it's not enough of us giving blood. So we need to do that. For the sake of the community.
So I have a question for you. Who would be the best blood candidate to donate?
Ooh, see, this is where my friend Kristen Harris should be on this call.
No, that's all right. You can give us the basics.
But I think it's either O positive, I want to say. It's either O negative or O positive, but whichever one it is, that's me.
Okay.
I know it's my blood type.
I was asking that is because if there's people that have certain illnesses or whatever, I mean, not just the type, but, like what, if I'm having certain symptoms with certain things, I might not be a good candidate to donate blood compared to others. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, in that way. Yes. your doctor normally will tell you if you're anemic, that tends to be the thing that takes you out. But the other piece of it is that, which is usually what's happened with me. But because I knew this blood drive was coming, I actually started eating differently to make sure that I could be able to be a candidate, because I really am invested in making sure I'm at least one. I want to be in that number between of at least one of the 20. So I worked really hard to make sure I ate, meat. I took a supplement that had beets in it because I really can't eat beets, like thing. So I took a supplement for that. Took some more iron. So I did, and I drank a lot of water, which is not something I normally do. I know I should, Dr. Greer, I know. But
yeah, we talked about that earlier today, didn't we?
Yeah. This water thing, I know, but I drank more this week because I'm determined to make sure that I'm in that number. So I hope you all also decide to join us.
My sister does the same thing. She gives blood regularly, and she says, "Oh, I've got to go by my liver." Because liver definitely has a high level of iron, and that can help build up your blood. And so she, makes her some liver, and then she have green leafy vegetables. So yes, you can, be proactive. I'm not quite sure, how many days it'll take, but you can be proactive. And usually when you first start getting your, go to the blood area, they will do a short screen. So that they will let you know if you're a good candidate or not.
Absolutely. And the universal donor is O negative. Okay. Just FYI.
Okay.
I did look that up. So on Saturday, we're going to have the refreshments, the donations for blood donations, the blood pressure screenings. We'll have something we're calling the Heart Health bingo card, so that as you go to the different tables, you'll get, you get a dab based on your interaction with whoever's at that table. And then at the end, or actually throughout the day, we'll be giving out amazing prizes that our resource tables have donated. We do have, to Dr. Greer's point earlier, we have all the major health systems. We have independent clinics like mine. We have concerned, citizens that have heart health issues or just vested in it. We have American Heart Association as a partner, the state, the Wisconsin Division of Chronic Disease. Is it prevention? Is a P in, there's another P in there. It's CDPP. In healthcare, we do all these acronyms.
It's so chronic disease prevention program. So
prevention program. Okay, there you go. And so we just know who we know who we're talking about when we do it. We're like, yeah, I don't know if anybody else understands. So the state will be with us. The City of Milwaukee Health Department will be with us. We have insurance companies with us. So everybody that's invested, and this is, to me, it's like Wakanda. It's like the dream healthcare situation. It's everybody at the table. The pharmacist. Oh yes, the pharmacist. It's literally everybody that touches the healthcare system. We have community health workers. We have every registered nurses, nurse practitioners. We have everybody at the table, and all of it is to make sure that we can really impact the heart health, especially of the 1860 census tract. And that census tract is actually where GMF and Thrive On resides. It's literally in that same neighborhood. It's the only place in the entire state of Wisconsin where more than 53% of the people that live there have uncontrolled hypertension.
Wow.
53%.
Wow. So that's like you have two people that at least one is going to have.
Absolutely. Exactly. Over yes. And it's the only place in the state of Wisconsin that has that particular distinction. So we are here to help. We're asking and this is why we're doing the community showcase, because we're asking the community to come in, see what the partners at the table who've already been at the table for about a year now are doing to help with this process, and what resources we have available, and then come and join us at the table, which is why I love the fact that we're on this particular show at the table. We need you. We need the community to come and help us figure out the solutions, because we don't want to create something that doesn't make sense for you. We want to create something that's sustainable beyond this money. We want to create something that makes sense for who you are, where you live, and how you're going to continue to create a lifestyle change, and not just us to change for today. So we're here to work with you to figure out how to do that.
So Erica, what I'm hearing is two things. There's going to be resources available for the community, but also you want to get information from the community to help form this program that you all are working on. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. We need you.
Okay.
Can I mention the fact that although I'll have my nutrition booth, my role is as director of community engagement. And what we've been doing to make sure that we get the community voice is that we have a community member advisory group, which we call our CMAC group. And then we've been doing community conversations around the community, going to different places to pose questions to the community about, what would help them, what works best, what things do you find as an issue, so we can take those back to our partners so we can truly make what we do and how we promote user friendly and something that the community can see that yes, they took our voice, they took our suggestions, and now it is we're making a better program. So when we're there, we're going to have different people that I know, at least from the standpoint of our community health action teams, our chats at their table, they will be getting the community voice on a community poll that gets their ideas and ideas of what their needs are, what the deficits are. Plus, we'll have this Get Connected flyer, wherein we are monthly going through and collating all kind of different events and things that's happening in the community so people can know what's there, so they're not socially isolated, so they can feel like they belong to the greater community. And that's kind of where we're at, because we want to welcome the community in. We want to welcome them into the Heart Health Learning Collaborative, but we want to let them know that your voice matters.
We're going to take a quick break. I have along with me today some beautiful, beautiful women that are here to talk about an event that's happening tomorrow. And so I have Dr. Yvonne and I also have Erica Sinclair here with us. And we're going to be back on the other side. So I'm going to ask the audience and the listeners if you have questions for them, or if you want to know more about what's happening for tomorrow or what they're doing in general, because they are out there in the community doing some wonderful work as far as healthcare, as far as healthy eating. You can call the number at 414-444-5253 or 414-444-5250. We'll see you on the other side. And if you have questions, come join us at the table this morning.
morning. Good morning. Hey, Karen, we're at the table with some beautiful people.
We are, Deb, and you know, it's been a delight today because we're talking about heart, we're talking about healthy eating, and we're talking about Milwaukee Heart Health Learning Collaborative that's been going on. And when I was just talking to Erica Sinclair, along with Dr. Yvonne, they were talking about how there's over 32 people that are going to be joining tomorrow at the Thrive on King building for this wonderful event from 10 to 2 o'clock. And so, you know, as we continue this conversation about healthy living, about eating right, you know, I know Dr. Yvonne, she constantly talks about healthy eating. And Dr. Yvonne, can you just kind of give us a little bit more about what all that you do, because what you do is very significant and it's also nationally recognized.
Yes.
Well, I really promote what we call community nutrition, meaning that we look at the community as our client, the whole community, and trying to promote community health and wellness through healthy eating and active living. One, I thought about this one tip that I learned years ago, and what one instructor said as he was talking about nutrition in the elderly and taking vitamins and minerals, he says, one thing is true, a vitamin pill cannot make a bad diet good.
Mm.
You can enhance your nutrition, but you cannot just say, oh, I take vitamins, so I don't have to worry about what I put in my body. Because food is way more than just the vitamin minerals. You're taking in fluid, you're taking in fiber. Now we know about phytochemicals. So when we say eat the rainbow, there's I wrote down 6 different types of phytochemicals from the pigments and the colors that's in the food is active. So now we know that, yes, eating your fruits and vegetables is good for you, but it's way more powerful than we ever thought before. And so now the idea is what you get in counts more so than if you say, well, I take vitamins. Vitamins help because sometimes your absorption of nutrients as you age goes down, or that you may need a higher level, like more iron when you're pregnant. But it doesn't make a bad diet good, because a bad diet, so if you hear bad diet, many times in nutrition world, it's low nutrient diet. So if you're already having very low nutrients and you think that one couple of pills is going to change that all around, it might not, because water, fiber, those are nutrients. And you're not going to get them from just a pill. So that's but all this goes for the idea of, why I say why eat right, nutritional consultant for healthy living. The goal is for you to live long and productive and healthy lives, because our seniors are important. You know, I tell my mom, you're a blessing and not a burden.
Mm.
Our seniors are important, and their wisdom is important, and their comfort is important. See, I'll start making myself cry.
No, I was just thinking about
But
that. You are so correct. Yes.
And that's
nutrition sets the stage for longevity. So that's why when you start talking about heart health, your heart has to stay with you for all of those years. It's a muscle. It's a strong muscle, and it needs to stay strong with good nutrition. And also, there's other factors like stress, not smoking, doing other things as well. So yeah, I take it very seriously, but I also know that everyone has their own story. And so I try to support people in their journey to healthier living.
I know one of the things that we've worked on, Dr. Greer and Erica, this is inherent in the work that you do, is the work that we did early on with catalyzing communities that's kind of fed into all of this. and
Yes.
and feeds into what you just talked about, with especially with our elders, with that social connectedness. And I think as I looked at and watched you all develop this program for this Saturday from 10 to 2 at Thrive On, that's completely free. It promotes that social connectedness, and uh, looking at it from an aspect of, with the 32 vendors, and I have a funny feeling, Erica, that it's going to continue growing. But with the 32 vendors, the resources that are going to be there, the opportunities that are going to be there, um, that's a continuation of that social connectedness that's so important when you talk about having that social connectedness not only within community, but also with your health and your healthcare provider. And I was wondering if you all could kind of speak to that with the work that you're doing for Saturday.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that that tee up, because yes, our seniors are important in that area, which is why it's one of the highest areas for uncontrolled hypertension. There's a lot of senior apartments, and so that's part of the reason why that area, it has such a high number of people that are impacted that we're trying to get to. So we definitely, again, Thrive On is at 2153 North MLK Drive. If you have not been in that building, which it's open to the public, it is and that's the goal of Thrive On, actually, is to be available to the public. There's Kinship Cafe that's in there. My friend Caitlin helps run that. I love their food, and I love Caitlin. And and they have a neighborhood hall, which is where we're going to be in. They have a common area where the stage is going to be, and we're going to be in that space as well. So it's open to the public. So we want you to come into that space with us. And because they're the seniors live up near there, we hope that you buddy up and bring people with you. But that's part of the issue, is that we don't have enough connectedness with each other to do that. To say, hey, I'm gonna come, you're my neighbor. How about we just go walk up the street here? We intentionally have our meetings in that space for heart health. We never get off of MLK Drive. we're on MLK Drive. We're there, Food for Health or YWCA or Thrive On. Like that, those are the places that we're in, because we want to make sure you can walk to, come and be a part of what we do when we meet on, and we usually meet from 2:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. to give people more opportunity to be able to be there. And our next meeting, I want to make sure I say this. Our next meeting is going to be on Wednesday, April 23rd from 2:30 to 5 p.m. And this particular time, we are going to meet at Food for Health, which is literally on the next block over, 2007 North MLK Drive. So if you want to come and be a part of what we're doing, please come in and be a part of this conversation. But we do need to understand that we're going to have sign-up opportunities, which is one of the things we asked our vendors, our table resources, to be interactive. Definitely give giveaways, but be interactive, engaging. We literally talked to all of them and said, what are you doing? Okay, let's modify it like this. Like we're that much in hands-on about making sure that people get something from these interactions, and they have opportunity to sign up for whatever they need. We have someone even coming to sign people up for hearing tests. I mean, like, we really run the gamut on this, and we really want people to understand this is important, and bring people with you, please. And one thing I do want to make sure I say too is that heart disease is one of those things that you want to do preventively for sure. Like, you just really do, because once you have heart failure, you can't cure that. There's no cure for heart failure. It just gets worse. And so all you can do is just do things to help, have a longer life and do things. But heart failure, once you get that condition, that particular diagnosis, then there's no cure. And so we're trying to prevent as many people as possible from even having to do that. So if you do the walking clubs, if you join the Silver Sneakers, they're going to be there doing a demonstration. If you do the Tai Chi, the Walnut Way, we have a young lady coming from just going to do a Tai Chi demonstration. Like, these are things, and we intentionally chose these things because they're not hard on your body like some of these other dances that I can't even. I mean, some of these line dances, even I'm like, well, what are we doing? I don't know if my body does that. So I'm just saying, like, I'm doing things that we all can do universally, kind of like universal blood, which I do seem that everybody can get and understand. And so, and these are things, and these are also services. The other important part, these are services that are in this community. these things are happening. The Silver Sneakers happens at Ebenezer. That is led by Miss Julia Means as far as Ebenezer's clinic area through Ascension. And then we have and Tai Chi again is in Walnut Way. So again, there's such a huge intentionality about what we're doing, who we're working with, why we're doing it, and we want you to be a part of it. So please do take us up on our offer. We really, really want you to be there. Dr. Greer?
Yes. One of the things that I wanted to showcase is the Cage and their booth. They are going to be there with Mr. Andre Lee Ellis and his young men that is at the Cage. And the thing that I thought of is that when I thought of the high price of food and how we really promote eating more fruits and vegetables and the rainbow of fruits and vegetables, well, they are going to have a program called on the 12th called Lemonade Tea and We, and they're organizing almost like 20 different community gardens to have a showcase on that day. He'll be giving out information on that, but he also is going to be giving out free seeds. And as he goes forward, he's going to teach people how to grow their own gardens. And so, when we start looking at the idea of, where we're living at and how, with the prices of food, we're trying to say we don't have to abandon healthy eating because the prices, I can't eat, I can't buy those high priced fruits and vegetables. Well, maybe you can grow your own and offset the cost of those foods, so that you have the what you need to stay healthy. You still, regardless of how high the food goes, we still need to eat healthy. And the farmers markets are coming out. So we want you to come by the nutrition tables. We'll have self-assessment tools where you can take a self-assessment on rating your own diet. How are you doing? Assessment on how you doing with your weight. How are you doing with having healthy family meals? And then stop by, the different tables and then pick up, see what he's got going about growing your own vegetables and how to plant seeds and see if you may want to go and have some of that learning. But those are the types of things that you'll see, things that's going to help you to be healthy and then also be connected. So we just want everyone to come on out and just, go and see what you, and it might be something that you want to share with your family members. One other thing I'll mention is that we're going to have the nurturing collaborative there. Now, some people say, oh, you've got a program that caters to pregnant women, but just think, when we do look at the life course perspective, the health of a newborn can exactly affect the health of that person as they grow older and for the generations to come. And so, we're seeing a whole spectrum of health and wellness when we start looking at heart health. It starts from the womb all the way to senior age. I won't say what a lot of people say.
Because that's what we're trying to prevent. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Thank you. But yes, we will have some of everyone there, and we want people to come and find those services that they need and that they can see. The only other thing I want to say is that getting into the building, if this is your first time, the entrance is in the back of the building.
We'll have the front door
So,
open too.
Yeah, the front will be open.
Oh,
the front door will be open.
Because that was an issue for
No,
some
we'll have the
people.
front
Like,
door
how you
open
get
too. No, we will. We
So
the
they
front.
can come in both ways. Is that
Yep,
what I'm
they
hearing?
can.
Because the
Yes,
building
ma'am.
is really a big building. So
It is.
it's right there on Martin King Drive and Garfield, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
It's
the
right
old
there on the
Gimbal
corner.
Schuster's building. If people remember the old Gimbal Schuster's building, and it's beautiful inside. And as Erica had mentioned, talking about intentionality, the intent for the partnerships, Medical College of Wisconsin, Royal Capital, and Greater Milwaukee Foundation, was to be in the neighborhood with intent to have programs such as the one that's occurring on tomorrow from 10 to 2. at the Thrive On building and bring in community like this for this particular reason. And I will tell you, just as you were mentioning, Andre Lee Ellis in the cage, there's more and more people that I've spoken with and talked to that have talked about having their own garden. And if you need any type of inspiration, Andre Lee Ellis, The Cage, and his young men they have been an inspiration to me on just being able, the ability to do it. And the beauty of it is being outside, which is also healthy. Work in the garden, my mother used to say, being closer to the dirt makes you closer to God, and working in the soil and working in the, that makes you healthy. And then also the fact, and Dr. Greer, you talked about this, the family aspect of it. When my mother was working, we had a garden in our backyard, and my sister and I would get out in the garden with her. So it was a family. And then my father, of course, he was inside, but he was benefiting from the food that was coming out of the garden. But it was he was doing the tilling at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season. But it's just one of those things, if you get the family to start together, like with the Nurturing Collaborative, if you get the family to start eating healthy, it's a habit that continues with the family. And that if you introduce foods early to your children, then they continue to like those foods. And it's what part of this is part of that prevention aspect that I do with the cancer prevention. If you start eating these healthy foods now, if you start eating the rainbow and it becomes commonplace, then you have that one prevention piece that you can actually control. But it's that social connectedness. It's that lack of isolation. It's that the things that you can do to reduce your stress, like being in the garden, the bringing people out as community and connecting, that is so critical and so important. And Dr. Greer, you talked about the chats. That's a beautiful aspect of the work that you're doing, that promotes that social connectedness. And
So
I've seen some. They talk
we
about
have we're up to 9 chats now. We have
wow.
9
And you'll
community
see
health
them.
action teams. So
Yes,
we
they have.
have a men's chat, a women's chat. We have
Yeah.
the youth chat. We have Southeast Asian, Spanish speaking chat. We have now a Native American chat.
Wow.
We
Wow.
have a senior chat and a veterans chat.
Wow.
So these are groups of people who come together, community. We call them our community member experts. That they come together and they decide what type of programs that they want to do to outreach, to help enhance social connectedness and the community feeling like they have a sense of belonging. And then they can take a more proactive effort related to their health practices. But when you're isolated and alone, many times you just don't even have the will to want to do those types of things. And so, one thing about this showcase, it has something for everybody.
Yep.
So, please feel free to come on out. It's not just for any one group because you're going to have services for pregnant women all the way to our senior population.
Awesome.
Because I mean, you have right now, and it's still growing, but you have 32 vendors going to be there. Is that what I'm hearing? 32 partners are going to be there with all different types of services related to healthy heart, healthy living. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely. And people can go and continue to register at healthconnectmke.org. That's healthconnectmke.org. That's Health Connection Incorporated's page. If you click on the flyer for the showcase, it'll take you to the registration link and you go ahead and register so we can count you in the number.
Can people also call if they don't have access to the internet?
Absolutely. 414-999-1099.
This has really been a great opportunity to talk to our community, especially now that we're starting to experience spring. It's supposed to be coming. I mean, we're waiting on it, but it's coming. But,
You're Wisconsin.
It's coming. But the thing about it is that this is a great time for our community to come together. We have so many different organizations that are going to be there tomorrow. I mean, we have Dr. Yvonne Greer here from Why Eat Right. I mean, she's the founder of that. And we have also Erica Sinclair, who is the founder and the CEO also of Health Connections, Inc. Am I correct on that, ladies?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And you all are coming together along with a team of people to bring something that is very significant to our community. And this is allowing for our people, our community, to have healthy hearts, to be able to live right and to want to live right. And they can do it. When I was talking, I always call you Dr. Yvonne because I like to, I just like that first name. But, when I'm listening to you talk about how you look at how people live, and then we try to make it work together. Isn't that what you said? You said you assess how you live and see how it works for that individual.
Yes, definitely. A lot of times we say everyone should do the same thing, but for some people it's not possible, or you just have your own preferences. And so within your particular preferences, your particular lifestyle, you are the expert in your survival. So we want to make sure that you have what you need to continue on the best way that suits you in a healthy way. So that's why not only do we know the guidelines, but we also know that we want to talk to people and make sure they individualize what is being given out. So I always turn the power back over to the individual, because we know that I always say you can't walk in another person's shoes.
I like that. I like
you
that.
can walk beside them. You can, reach out your hand, but you really can't always walk in that person's shoe. And so communication with that person is key. And that's one thing that we want to do with the Milwaukee Heart Health Learning Collaborative, is give that person that voice.
So I want, because we're getting ready to close now, I want to thank Erica Sinclair from Health Connections, Dr. Yvonne Greer from Why Eat Right. We also have Deb Nevels, the manager for cancer prevention. And so one more thing I want to make sure that people know, where can they come tomorrow from 10 to 2?
Thrive on King at 2153 North MLK Drive.
You all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Deb, do you have some closing remarks?
Just be there, be in the place, be among the ones that are counted.
All right. I look forward to everybody enjoying your weekend. See you at Thrive on King Drive tomorrow.
All right. See you tomorrow.
It's like rain